We'll wait for the clerk to give us the go-ahead. You know what Joe Booth does? She said you're good. Okay, thank you. I'll tell you later. Staff ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to convene the special town council meeting for Tuesday, September 12th. It is 5 p.m. It's good to see everybody here today, and thank you for coming. Item number 2 on our agenda is public comment. If there's anybody here to make a public comment to council tonight, please come forward to the lectern, give your name and address, and you'll have 2.5 minutes by ordinance to speak. Anybody for public comment? Anybody at all? All right, we will move on to item 3, which is why most of the people are here in the room tonight. Recognition of Cub Scout Pack 502, Boy Scouts of America Troop 502B and Troop 502G for becoming a Guinness World Records title holder. Mr. DeMora.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Good to be with you as always. Yes, indeed, we have some special guests with us this evening. I'd like to ask Nathan Schutte to join me up here at the microphone. I'm going to read to you some of what happened by these wonderful scouts, many of whom are with us tonight. But let's see here. A group of 108 scouts made history on Saturday, May 13th, 2023. By building the world's largest blanket fort at our Memorial Waterfront Park here in Mount Pleasant. The fort took 4.5 hours to construct and measured 12,290 and some change square feet, breaking the previous record of 9,935 square feet set in 2019. The evidence of their dedication was submitted to Guinness World Records for verification and officially accepted on August 13th, 2023. And they were thrilled, I'm sure, to be informed that they are, in fact, Guinness World Records title holders. So the record-breaking fort was the culmination of a blanket drive, which ultimately these blankets will be donated to homeless and animal shelters throughout our community. So, Nathan, if you'd come forward and perhaps mention to the mayor and council the purpose behind the campaign, that would be great.
And actually, I'm going to have all the scouts kind of stand up here with me. So, yes, this started as a wild idea with kind of a 3-part goal. The first part of that goal was to empower these scouts to do something, to make a meaningful contribution to our community. The second part of that was to raise some awareness within our community. This blanket drive not only was about these scouts participating, but about others in the community participating as well. We collected blankets from churches, from businesses. We collected blankets from schools as part of this drive. We collected nearly 700 blankets to make this happen. And then the last part of that was to have a little fun. You might ask, why a Guinness World Record? Every good drive needs a goal. We didn't want a thermometer. We wanted a title. We wanted to do something that we could take a picture of and say, hey, look at the impact and the scale of what we can do here in Mount Pleasant. So these are just some of the 108 scouts and scouters who participated in that event on that Saturday back in May. So I do also want to say thank you to Steve and some other members of the town of Mount Pleasant for making available Waterfront Park for this. Waterfront Park is a wonderful part of this community. These scouts fish on it. We do all kinds of fun stuff there. It's now a record-holding park. So congratulations to the town as well. But again, these scouts made it happen. We had a great time, and thank you for letting us be here this evening.
Bravo.
Down.
Right. May need to do a couple rows here, guys. Yes.
know we have a 6-inch advantage.
Yes, you're actually taller than us. Doesn't make us feel great.
I'll be proud.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome job. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Can we get one more?
Makes us very proud. More? All right.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Got it.
You good?
All right. Thanks. Good to see you. Congratulations. Coming here next month and the whole chambers be a blanket fort.
That's really, really big.
Yes.
that is really big.
And we're not sure how many can hang around, but they've been invited, those who can, to be here at our 6 o'clock meeting and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. That was wonderful. And that leads us to item 4, executive session, legal and contractual. We'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for an update on pending litigation entitled James N. Dearline et al. Commission versus Commission of Public Works in the town of Mount Pleasant et al.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion? When we return, when we reconvene, we may take action on any item, including any subsection of any section listed on an executive session agenda or discussed in an executive session during a properly noticed meeting. All in favor of going into executive session for the reasons stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will go upstairs in executive session. Madam Clerk, I'm going to leave my stuff down here. I guess everything will be, yeah, nobody's back here. All right.
And I guess the lady running the meeting does not know a thing about Robert's rules or like she's threatened to take me from that if people would try to
The impromptu school board meeting again on the weekend. Or no, was it? I thought it was going to be yesterday. It was yesterday. Yeah. I was curious if they were going to try to hold on to people. I thought they were around the park.
I think I have about 15 reserved seats. I just put Moultrie High School guests. All right, thank you.
I would be anxious to hear when it gets here. I'm coming down. If we're not done upstairs, I'm coming down to 406.
Okay.
Myself.
If it gets here before then, I'll text you and let you know.
Thank you. stopped playing that first quarter. Says, we're good. We're good. The big score.
You went to them? A couple days ago.
I go to this is what something's wrong.
The balance, sure. Yeah.
Get back in your role.
Right. Yeah, I know. It makes the most money here.
He's paying who?
Yeah, exactly.
stand with you.
Are you? I'll awkwardly stand with you. We're both wearing blue.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be your footmen.
I don't know. I was going to wait on Eric to see. So he told, I think it's probably child.
And there goes my.
I think Eric's reading, according to you. Yeah. But we'll see. I will be ready. I gave an intro to my public speaking reading is sharp. I did an intro to Catherine Basham this morning. That's what we got for our sponsorship. Yeah. Yeah.
David?
After all these years.
Some guys get a gold watch. You get a,
For being an Eagles fan. Yeah, I know.
I agree with you. Although
I still have never met, haven't met Virginia. She looks so big.
She is the chillest baby, except she just
Babe.
doesn't sleep for long periods at night.
But she's chill. Who cares?
She's chill all day. What if we just moved seats?
Just for the last meeting.
Just
I
did
bet
it
they would
myself.
let us. They let us for our last meeting in October. We'll sit next to
Put
each
us all
other
on the
for
same
old
side.
time's sake.
Before we
Make
got
it
our
teams.
seats moved for being too talkative.
Yes.
For not taking things
It's like
seriously.
we're not in teams. Really.
Oh man.
Work is super like not busy, right?
But that's like actually
I
what
know.
makes it stressful.
I know.
Is that like we need some business
Yes.
and stuff like.
And time just like goes by so.
Oh God, Gary, quit lifting weights so much.
No.
I know. I need to lose
He
something.
just
I'm
keeps
done.
getting, he keeps getting Tyrantac shirts.
Girls
He's
for the
not getting-
girls, baby. That's what I need to do. What if I just slowly shrink my shirts?
That's what I'm going to. No, actually, if I do that.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
thank
you, my love.
you. Oh my goodness. What would you have done?
Oh,
Why are you so sore? What the freak show? Did you see that on TikTok? That football player that I guess they got in a little fight. And then he slapped him and held it. And the guy like waited 5 seconds.
oh yes.
That was so
And he did draw a penalty.
Did he? That was so awesome.
It's so funny. I love it.
I'm down to.
Oh, not before we convene this one.
That's what's happening this morning.
You do.
I need a haircut too.
Hey, no laughing in executive session. What do you think this is? A joke? I know.
We were just laughing about how hey, for our last meeting next month, I'm just gonna switch to hours.
Do it. Oh, that's true. That's true.
GQ.
Huh?
GQ.
Who's that?
Say hi.
My sister's up there. They still remember me. Good to see you.
How you doing? See you, sir. You doing all right?
This is Brenda Corley, Dr. Darby.
It's bad. Who are we? Oh yeah, Laura won't be here yet. We can go ahead. Council members, if y'all bear with us, we have to conclude our 5 o'clock meeting, and then we will wait till 6 o'clock to begin the regular meeting that y'all are here for. So we have reconvened from executive session from the special town council meeting. No votes were cast, no action was taken. Unless I'm misinformed, I don't believe we have any motions to result from that. So item 6 on the 5 p.m. special town council meeting agenda is to adjourn. So the special town council meeting is adjourned. And you let us know when we're ready for 6. Is Chaplain?
What's his name? About the cruise ship. He keeps asking. I keep saying, yeah, he said he's going. I know. I'm I'm the same way. Don't worry.
So the few scouts that are here are not going to do the pledge, so you'll be doing the pledge.
All right. Howard.
Eric,
The Wellness Fair. I
is
didn't want you to
Michelle
know.
Reed doing the
To
public
Wellness
hearing?
Fair tomorrow.
Okay, got it.
I won't be there. I'm going to start a thing called Walking Wednesdays.
So they're not doing the pledge.
So we work out every day. Yeah, we
I'm told they are not doing
We'll walk to the roads, just walk
So are they?
a couple miles, whatever, and come back in. So if you ever want to do it,
Oh.
on Wednesdays at lunchtime.
I did 7 miles on a repeat bike today. Did 1.8
His name
miles
was
on
Mr.
the treadmill
Shooty.
yesterday.
Shooty. His name was Mr. Shooty.
This is just, we get
Nathan.
lots of people to go. All
I
employees.
believe so.
Yeah.
And we just walk and have fun.
Okay.
I figured I'd tell you because
No,
like
thank-
sometimes.
Thank you. I do.
That's a cool trophy.
Who?
I've wanted one of those for so long.
Who is?
Really?
They're so close.
Oh, okay.
They're probably bigger today. That's back in 1950.
Got
I
Me.
don't know. I think they're about
My watch is 6 o'clock.
Mine too.
Was that a yes? Okay. Council members ready? Staff ready? All right. Good evening. Let me call to order the monthly town council meeting for Mount Pleasant Town Council for this Tuesday, September the 12th. It's good to see everybody here. In case y'all missed it, at 5 o'clock, we had a room full of some Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts that had earned the Guinness World Record for a blanket fort down at our waterfront park. So we have a Guinness World Record that was earned right here in Mount Pleasant, and we recognize them. Exactly. Some of them are here, and let me ask: would y'all be able to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, great. So item number 1 is a prayer that will be led by Chaplain Paula Mullen, and then our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by members of Scout Troop 502. Please stand.
Good evening. Let us bow our head to God and go in prayer. Good and gracious God, we thank you for this day that you have blessed us with. We thank you for the time that you have set aside this afternoon for us to gather, and we thank you for each and every person that is in this room because they come tonight, Lord, with a heart to serve our community. As we progress in the meeting, Lord, we ask that you keep our eyes open, our ears open, our hearts open to hear your words of wisdom. And we thank you so much for this beautiful town that we get to live and work and play and worship in. It is in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Come on up.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Two.
How about a round
Thank
for
you.
our Scouts? Thank you. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The agenda is approved. Item number 4, we will start off with a public hearing. And this is to receive input on something where the vote is on the agenda later. And as required by regulation, I do have to hit the gavel to end the public hearing. So that's what that'll be. Ms. Reed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. And council, good evening. This is a second public hearing to receive input on a amendment to a development agreement for Liberty Hill Farms. As you'll recall, we had the first public hearing last month, but we delayed first reading, which will come later in the meeting tonight. But it is an amendment to extend the development agreement. Originally, it was proposed for 5 years. There will be an amendment at final reading to move that to 3 years, as well as amending the development schedule that is attached to that. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. If there's anyone here to speak to that part of the public hearing, please come forward and speak. You are also able to speak again in public comments, but this is specifically addressing the public hearing.
Thank you. Stuart Whiteside, Seaman Whiteside and Associates, 501 Wando Park Boulevard, Mount Pleasant. Here representing KHIV, who's requesting an amendment due to project delays caused by COVID and supply chain issues. Through the requirements of the original development agreement, KHIV has contributed funds and made improvements for the town and surrounding area, totaling approximately $3 to $4 million, plus donated 7 acres of land for a town park. And that does not include all the impact fees that they paid as well. Be glad to go through the long list of improvements later if you'd like to hear it, but it is an extensive list. They now just want a 3-year extension to the development agreement so they could finish the project. And they have been indicated they're willing to contribute $25,000 to the proposed bike path on Rifle Range Road. If you have any questions later during an agenda item, please call us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here to speak to this item in the public hearing? No one else? All right, I declare this public hearing closed. This moves us to item B. In section 4, recognition of the 1950 Moultrie High School football state champions. Mr. Chapman.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Howard Chapman, and together with Mayor Haney and my fellow council members, we're here to help remember a bright moment in Mount Pleasant history. 73 years ago this fall, the Moultrie High School Generals 1950 football team outscored their opponents by a combined total of 377 to 40 points and went undefeated to win the South Carolina High School League state football title. To this day, that football championship remains the only South Carolina high school state football title won by a Mount Pleasant high school. And we confirmed this. We confirmed it talking to Jerome Singleton of the High School League. We confirmed it working with members of the Lang Alumni Association and with the Avery Institute, as well as Moultrie alumni. As many of you know, we've honored Mount Pleasant High School teams in tennis, volleyball, soccer, lacrosse, and other sports for their state titles, but no football team or no football title. We are here to honor that 1950 team and their accomplishments. With us tonight is a member of that team, Dr. Charles Darby. Dr. Darby, if you want to come up. And we also have with him his family that are here too, so I'd ask them to stand as well, please. Another member, okay, y'all can be seated. Another member, Bob Royal, former South Carolina Secretary of Commerce, was scheduled to be here, but he came down with COVID at the last minute. News and Courier editor Doc Baker described the state championship game in Orangeburg against North Augusta as being played in cold, driving rain. Now, we've seen some of that driving rain lately, I know. No, it wasn't that cold. Scoreless in the fourth quarter, one of the players named Bench The General star running back had been injured during the game and was unable to continue playing. Rapid Robert Royal stepped in for Bench and returned a punt 61 yards for a touchdown, winning the game for the Generals 6-0. Dr. Darby said of the win, the whole thing was just a dream. A dream come true. Dr. Darby and Mr. Royal recalled that the town practically shut down on Friday nights so that everyone could head over to Moultrie High to watch the Generals play. The field still exists on Coleman Boulevard, but the high school has been replaced by a middle school of the same name, Moultrie Middle. In recent years, the state championship trophy from the 1950 season was found and refurbished by Baker Motors owner and Moultrie High School alum Tommy Baker. Colleen Flynn, the executive assistant, is here with us tonight. Colleen, you want to stand? That's all you got to do right now. Thank you, Colleen. In an effort to facilitate the display of the trophy and give it a prominent place within the town, I contacted Mr. Jeff Barowie. Jeff, you don't have to stand. I know you had to get on the scooter to do that, but you're going to stand in a minute. He is the Chief Operating Officer of Charleston County School District. Together, we came up with Moultrie Middle School as the site appropriate for this trophy because it is the site where the team played. Congratulations once again to Moultrie High School, the Generals, and thank you to Tommy Baker. Thank you to Jeff Barowie for running the interference to get the trophy housed in an appropriate place of honor and to inspire generations to come. Dr. Darby, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I would just like to thank the town of Mount Pleasant for the recognition. We all had a wonderful time playing in that year, and a lot of those guys, most all of them, went on to be successful citizens. It made made Moultrie High School proud that we were all involved in not only government but politics. We had a couple of preachers. The whole thing turned out to be a great experience, and I was just pleased that I was able to be a part of it. And thank the town of Mount Pleasant. I wanted to mention Robert. Robert called me. He was sick as a dog with the flu, but wanted me to thank everyone on his behalf. As far as we know, that Robert and I are the two only standing members left of that team. So thank the town of Mount Pleasant. Thank you, Howard. We appreciate the recognition.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barowie.
I never got one of those. I never get a standing ovation. It's really nice to be here where I'm not having to answer questions. You don't know how much I appreciate that. These guys and gals ask some great questions at the school district. I'd also like to echo my thanks to you all, especially Councilman Chapman, for making this work. To Dr. Darby and your team. I did some research of my own, and although this was before the consolidation of Charleston County School District, we've had a tough run in football across the district. We haven't won a state championship since '82, and that's a long time for more than 10 high schools. But the 1950s started with Moultrie, went on to North Charleston High, St. John's, St. Andrews. They all won state championships following you guys. So you led the way. You led the way for all of the county. We look forward to putting this trophy in a place of esteem and for years to come, and have everyone get a chance to look at it. So thanks again to you all. Thanks to Councilman Chapman, Dr. Darby, and Baker Automotive, Colleen. I know you were the one that took care of this. It looks great. It really does look good. Thanks for making it look good. So
Now, if I could ask Colleen to come up, we're going to do a handoff. You know that football term. With Jeff on one side, Dr. Darby on one side, Colleen on the same side. For photograph, this is stand up. Put your hand on the trophy. You want her on this side, because she's handing it off to you. Dr. Darby are handing it off to you. Okay? I don't need to be here. All right, I'll get her on this.
Get you on this side. You need to have the photo. There we go. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
I want these three to have a challenge coin on behalf of the district. This is a military tradition to honor a job well done as well as safe passage in the future. So. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hey, Jonathan.
We'll bring it back. We're gonna do a family photo.
Good, good. You don't have to bring it back. Put it on Jeff's scooter and. Was that 3 or 4 generations of the Darby family? It was good to see them all. Okay, yeah, we have. She'll be right back. Eric, we're gonna wait till the clerk gets back in. She's up, of course. Wow. Okay, that concludes item B. Item C is the State of the Chamber Address and presentation of the Business Appreciation Proclamation. Mr. DeMora.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, happy that Jennifer Maxwell, the president of the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce, could be here with us this evening to deliver the State of the Chamber address. And upon conclusion of that address, we'll go ahead and announce the proclamation. Okay, Jennifer.
Hey, Tom. Hello, Jennifer.
All right. Well, thank you for having us today. I'm also here with Rebecca Emholtz, our director for the chamber. Just wanted to give a state of the chamber for the past year. I went too far. Hold on. Oh, there we go. So building business with our numerous networking events each month, our ribbon cuttings that we partner with you all. And then we have 3 new programs this year: Rise, our Women in Business event, our YPG, and then our East Cooper Hospitality Council. We've been partnering with the town of Mount Pleasant on our annual Biz Where You Live campaign with our Shop Where You Live, Dine Where You Live, Get Fit Where You Live. We had our first Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce team for the Bridge Run this year, which was really fun. We have been supporting the initiative to be a sensory-friendly community. And just this morning, we had our first event with Just Be to have the certificate process for businesses. And we had a great turnout, over 25 people, which was a great first event. We've had a presence at this year's Public Input Matters events. And our partnership on the All-America City event with you all. We were very happy that Michael Cochran, our immediate past president, was able to come with you all and be a part of the story for this year's presentation. And then reaching our community. We have our first responder of the month at our monthly luncheons. This year is our 13th annual Business Expo, which is coming up in 2 weeks. And then partnering with different festivals in the community, such as Blessing of the Fleet, the Children's Art Festival, and the Lights and Love at Mount Pleasant Town Center. Our giving back to the community. We've partnered with DSS on making journey bags the past couple of years. We've had an annual scholarship for our Joe Brinson Memorial Scholarship and volunteer opportunities throughout the year in our community as well. And moving forward, we're really, really excited to say we have a space we're leasing in the Mount Pleasant area, and hopefully we'll be in before the end of the year and can't wait to have you all see the new space. We really appreciate the partnership and value you all and what you do for the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Eric has a proclamation for you.
That's right. And thank you, Jennifer. Members of council, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Haney has proclaimed next week Business Appreciation Week. And so I have the proclamation in front of me, and I'll go ahead and read it on your behalf, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Whereas the town of Mount Pleasant is a business-friendly community that would like to show appreciation to the individuals that do business here and contribute to the growth and economic health of our community. And whereas the local economy of Mount Pleasant is stimulated by businesses that create jobs and employment opportunities, allowing citizens to earn money, support their families, and thus reinvest in the community. And whereas the town of Mount Pleasant supports the entrepreneurial spirit by being a community that not only welcomes new businesses, but supports them by providing resources and offering assistance throughout the startup process. And whereas the town strives to build and strengthen relationships amongst local entrepreneurs and business owners, and create a supportive, open, and encouraging business environment that is inviting and attractive. And whereas the town of Mount Pleasant wishes to showcase and recognize the success of businesses within the community. Now, therefore, I, Will Haney, Mayor of the town of Mount Pleasant, proclaim September 17th through the 23rd, 2023 as Business Appreciation Week in the town of Mount Pleasant, with the goal of providing a fresh and ever-evolving atmosphere to remain a competitive, interesting, and desirable destination in which to do business. Thank you. Give this to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. All right. Item D is longevity awards. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight we have the opportunity to recognize Chris Davis for 30 years of service. Chris began his career within the town of Mount Pleasant in August of 1993, working as a telecommunicator in our dispatch center. Due to his calm and professional demeanor during stressful situations, he quickly gained the respect of officers in the field. His radio transmissions voice was always clear and easy for officers to understand. He still has that ability today. I'll explain that in a minute. In 1996, Chris became one of our community service officers, working alongside of the sworn officers in the field. If you were to ask any of those officers about Chris, they would tell you that he was amazing. He was always a team player, willing to volunteer to take reports, work minor collisions, you name it, he was there to help. He's considered one of the best of CSOs Mr. Department's ever had. In 2006, Chris became the police department's first crime analyst. His ability to analyze crime trends and recall details about offenders are unmatched. I don't know how he does it. He's literally solved crimes with what he remembers and how he connects the dots. His counterparts in the crime analyst community speak very highly of him. He's very highly respected. Recently, while speaking with a member of South Carolina's Information Intelligence Center, it's commonly referred to as the Fusion Center, they said, "We love Chris. His reports are always amazing. He's one of the best." Over the course of his career, he's been awarded Telecommunicator of the Year, CSO of the Year multiple times, and Civilian of the Year multiple times as well. Back to his ability to speak on the radio. Last week, we received an alert from our automated license plate reader about a vehicle listed as being driven by an elderly missing individual who was endangered, who was in our town. Chris got on the radio, provided the information. Our officers in the field, they were able to locate this individual and provide assistance needed to them to reunite them with their family member out of state. He sounded just like he did on the radio when he was a CSO. Didn't miss a beat. It was amazing. Chris, thank you for 30 years of keeping our community safe. Your service literally is an inspiration for all of us. So congratulations.
Thank you, Chris. Item 5, approval of the minutes from the August 8th regular and special town council meetings and the July 2023 financial statement.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Item 6 is public comment, and I'm going to depart just a little bit and defer to our attorney because we do not do dialogue during public comment, but there are some changes and clarifications that have been made to something that is up for second reading. So if you're here concerned for that, and we've been hearing about it, that has been addressed in the draft that will be voted on tonight. So Mr. Pagliarini, if you'll just touch on that, it might save a little angst and a little time.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Under Council Business, Old Business 10B, final reading of the ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 73 titled Bicycles. There's been a large amount of correspondence related to limiting bicycles to 10 miles per hour off of sidewalks, basically in dedicated bike lanes. What you will see, the changes that were discussed at PJL, that is not the case. And you'll see in the amendments that bicycles in dedicated bike lanes, roads, and the like are unlimited. So you'll see those changes, and I just wanted to make that clarification.
Plus the 3 amendments that were recommended by the PJL committee.
Yes, sir. That's
Right.
correct.
Okay. So if that's the concern that many people are here to speak about, those have been addressed and will be included in what's voting on tonight. However, it's public comment, and you can talk about anything you want. So, Mr. Demora, if you will, and we do have a timer. Yes.
Yes, sir. First speaker is David Gutman.
Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Council. I want to talk to you about something you probably heard about before. It's Highway 41, but also Dunes West Boulevard. Now, I live in Dunes West, and we're neighbored by the people in Phillips Community, Rivertown, Park West, and Dunes West. The proposals that have been happening with Highway 41 that's been going on throughout the years has had this highway, I don't know, so many different ways, but the way it is right now is not going to work. It's not going to work because it doesn't service our community. It doesn't service the Phillips community. It doesn't service anybody. You got a road that's going to go through a park where there's supposed to be nature. People go there to walk. People go to be with their families, go to picnics. And they're going to take that away for a highway to go where? To go to a traffic circle that separates Park West and Dunes West. And where are the cars going to go? It makes no sense. You are in a unique situation where you have control over how this project turns out. Because the one thing that no one controls but this council and the mayor is Dunes West Boulevard. It is a street that is controlled by the council, by Mount Pleasant. I ask you all not to do anything with the way it is right now. Leave it the way it is right now. We are all very happy with it. It does not affect anybody. And like I've said in the past when I've spoken before, the best alternative for a solution for this traffic situation is to build a highway just north of Carolina Park. There's vacant land up there. And the only thing, or the only people, or the only animals that would be disturbed are the squirrels. Why would you give a hard time to 4 communities? We're all residents of Mount Pleasant. We're all neighbors. We all live together. And we all want to live in peace. And we want to be happy. But why not build a highway where there are no people? It makes more sense. Please, I ask you again, Dunes West Boulevard, please leave it alone. It's a community of people that know each other, that see each other every day. We have kids there. People ride their bikes and they walk. Please leave that alone at the very least. Also, there were 3,100 comments to the Army Corps of Engineers with the displeasure of this project that they have, that they call the alternative project. Please, I ask you again. Thank you.
Janet Newham.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Janet Newham. We found out just last week that there's a concept proposal in place to divide up Edwards Park that's not in alignment with recognizing the history of that space. But we haven't lifted up the information on the history of that space, so I wanted to let y'all know that so it was in your minds. Quick history. Start with the 1760s, years before the Revolutionary War. A gentleman created Greenwich Village in the area that now surrounds what is Edwards Park in the Old Village. When he created that, he established what is now Edwards Park as the town common. They called it Greenwich Common, they called it the Common, but that's what it was. And what is now called Royal Avenue was Common Street back then. Hop now to the 1830s. Greenwich Village combines with two neighboring villages to create what we now know as Mount Pleasant. I see 1837 on the Cresco badge. The town common is also known as Greenwich Common. Now hop to the 1840s. You know, the ferry that went back and forth to Charleston to Mount Pleasant left at that time from the ferry wharf at Ferry Street. So the common space, the town common, was right around the corner. So everyone that was coming to go to Charleston and they were bringing their produce and their livestock and their goods, that's where they gathered to wait for the ferry back then. I know it's an enticing green space and that it could be many things. I remember in the late 1990s, there was a proposal floated to make it a skate park. I don't know if y'all all remember that. Within the footprint of the Old Village, that space is on the National Register of Historic Places. The original town common of Mount Pleasant does not need to be divided up to include a formally designated dog park. That's not protecting that historic asset. You may know that there's an online petition going around against dividing up Edwards Park. It went out just a few days ago, and in just a few days, there were over 500 signatures on it. So a lot of people have a lot of reasons for their positions, but I believe the overarching position is to protect this historic space. And I have faith that once this body knows about the history and you have it in your minds, that you'll be protecting it too. Thank you all.
Sarah Mitchell.
Hi, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I live across from Edwards Park, so I'm here to talk to you about that today. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of passion behind this. You know, a lot of people love the Old Village and Old Mount Pleasant. It's a beautiful place, and it is a place welcoming to everyone in town. However, making an official dog park at Edwards Park is not a good idea for a litany of reasons. And I won't bore you with the 20 or 30 reasons there are. I will say there are two children at our local elementary in the neighborhood MPA who have been hit by cars. One very seriously injured, and luckily he is still alive today. Another, a less serious injury. That was only in the past 3 years. We have so much traffic going into the neighborhood and out of the neighborhood, and because it's such a lovely place for bike riding and pedestrians and dogs, there is just so much foot traffic. So adding more traffic into the neighborhood to Edwards Park is, you know, kind of detrimental for all the things, you know. We asked, like the gentleman before, I asked that, make your job easy. I'd love for you to do nothing, leave Edwards Park as it is. I did take the liberty of going around just the houses that all border the park just to make sure there was consensus. And I did bring that here today, and every house that borders the park is against changing Edwards Park. So we'd like to leave it unchanged. Some of my neighbors' families have lived there for over 100 years. So that's how old some of these families and their families have lived there. And so it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful park. We'd love to leave it as it is and not add fencing or make it a dirt pit. And the other thing is we do already have 2 designated dog parks in Mount Pleasant, the one along Rifle Range and also at Palmetto County Island Park. And then you have, which is a wonderful idea, and I thank you for it, the one you are building under the bridge at Waterfront Park. So that gives the town and the community 3 official dog parks that are not in neighborhoods. That is the distinction here. Those dog parks are not in neighborhoods. So let's keep Edwards Park as it is. Thank you.
Michael Werner.
everyone. I live in Mount Pleasant for about 17 years now. Moved down. I was one of those Yankees that came down a long time ago. And I'm here really not from a personal position. These people are all talking about their communities. I work for a contractor in Mount Pleasant, and I drive around probably more than anybody in this council combined, maybe with the exception of the police officer over there. But I drive 100, 150 miles a day in Mount Pleasant alone every day, working for a contractor. And what I see now with this bike traffic and traffic is scary, quite frankly. Anybody who's lived here 17 years has seen traffic 10 times what it was, bicycles as well as automobiles. And so when I heard this referendum was coming up, I had to come in and comment. It's not me personally, because I'm not, I look at three different bike types. There's children that ride their bikes for fun to and from school. There's pleasure riders like me and my wife. We go out and get exercise, get fresh air. And then there's the spandex group. I think everybody knows who that is. We don't have to elaborate on that. But they're not affected by this referendum. The spandex group, they're on the street. They're not on the sidewalks. The kids are on the sidewalks, but they're exempt from what I understand. 17 and under would be exempt. So it really does target the pleasure riders. And it just struck me to take someone that's retired, riding, and we're not being irresponsible riders down the sidewalk. I can't even pedal 20 miles an hour. So we're going very responsibly. And to put us out on the street in all this additional traffic just doesn't make sense, not logically. This is a genuine problem in the city. We all know it, but I don't think this is the solution to it exactly. I read some bios. I know there's some teachers in the group, and so I'm sure you've told your students, do your homework. Well, I did my homework, and hopefully you did. I'll give you some quick facts from a quote from an investigation from Post and Courier. Pedestrians and cyclists are more likely to die in Charleston region than anywhere else in South Carolina. Don't take my word for it. This is actually from Keith Benjamin, the director of Charleston Traffic and Transportation. He says it's a terrible issue, and a lot of actions are taken in response instead of proactively. So it's a response thing. And so we wait till something happens, like 9/11. We wait till 3,000 people die, and then we put in all these laws and things. We don't want to do that. Let's be proactive. Let's not wait till the first person gets hurt. And that's not what we want to do. I don't think that's what you want to do. Certainly don't. So the facts across the land, these are real facts. Across the state, 101,112 pedestrians died, 146 riding bicycles. 1 in 4 bicycle crashes happened in Charleston County alone. About half of the pedestrians and 20% of all of these accidents happen in Charleston County, more than anywhere else in the state, more than any county in the state.
Mr. Warren, it's time.
So, time's up? Okay. Well, I guess
Thank
I'm
you.
done. All right, thank you. I just ask you, don't make the decision in a vacuum. Okay, know your facts, do your homework, and then make a decision responsibly. Thank you.
Peter Bodie.
Hi, my name is Peter Boati. I live at 1361 Heron Bay Loop in the South Bay community. A project is going to be built there eventually. The only thing we are objecting to now is that behind our present buildings is Heron Bay Loop. It's not a street. It's a back alley. There are garages and carports there. The plan calls for extending that alley all the way out to the new project to Founders Way, which in turn is going to make it a through street. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. It's going to set up a very dangerous situation because our carports and our garages are there. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to make sure you guys know about it.
Patrick Allen.
Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about our South Bay at Mount Pleasant community. I serve as the Development Director for Liberty Senior Living. At South Bay, residents enjoy a host of meal options daily and on-site MUSC health clinic, fitness and personal training programs, speaker series, on-site salon facilities, and a host of other engagement opportunities for our resident community in an environment that is licensed and managed by the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. Most importantly, we have significant healthcare options on campus, including assisted living, memory care, rehabilitation, skilled nursing, providing residents the ability to receive necessary care when and if it is needed. We find it's common for residents to have long stays in our community as they progress through the levels of care, and we even have examples at South Bay of folks who've left our community and since have come back. Tonight, we're before you with a request to move forward with the design and construction of 109 homes for new residents. Presently, we have a waiting list and aren't able to provide additional service to members of the community who are seeking our services. That's an important item to highlight. The majority of our residents are from in and around Mount Pleasant. In fact, our top 10 origin zip codes, meaning where our residents come from, 8 of those are local to Mount Pleasant. We're excited to give folks an opportunity to remain in their community long term. As you know, there's a great need for expanded senior services here in Mount Pleasant. There are some wonderful CCRC options here in town, of which we are one, but each of them is full. There is a significant deficit for this growing senior population. We met with residents last week. You've heard from Peter. We met with him last week as well. And understandably, they have some concerns about our expansion programs. Specifically, those concerns seem to be rooted in the location of parking, the dining experience, and we need to hire some additional servers, and the committed road connection to Founders Way. And lastly, the specifics of our expansion plans. When and if we're able to move forward, we're committed to continuing to meet with residents and seek out their opinion. Lastly, in planning committee, there was a comment about the town receiving some fashion of a benefit if we move forward with this. We've batted some ideas about internally. We are committed to providing a passive park. What we would like to do is to move that park in concert with planning input, move that park to a park that is an intergenerational park that would serve both our residents and their fitness facilities, in addition to the local community. Thank you for your time. We look forward to moving forward with your support.
James Wilson.
Good evening, members of council, mayor. I'm James Wilson, 722 Dragoon Drive here in Mount Pleasant. I'm here on behalf of the South Bay community with Patrick. I just wanted to highlight a couple of points about the proposal that's before you this evening. The first is, most importantly, the need in the community. As Patrick said, there are people right here in the Mount Pleasant community who have been and continue to be on a waiting list and are looking for this care, and some of those folks we all know, and it's a real need here in our community. This expansion of the existing facility, it was approved in the Central Mount Pleasant PD before, so this is not a new project. This is one that was already approved by council previously. The reason we're here this evening is because essentially we are asking for the ability to move forward with it despite the existing moratorium and cap on multifamily. So a CCRC, Continuing Care Retirement Community, it's licensed by the state, the Department of Consumer Affairs, and but under our zoning code, it falls within multifamily. So that's what we're here asking for. Not a new project, but the ability to go forward with a CCRC very specifically. And we have tried to tailor this amendment very carefully to be only that and not to allow any room. It has to be a real CCRC with a full continuum of care. It has to be licensed by the Department of Consumer Affairs. It has to have all of the services that you would expect and are provided. The traffic impact assessment that was done for Central Mount Pleasant, it includes these CCRC units, so we're not asking to expand on that. We even did a traffic study just to see what's happening, and the result of which we provided, of course, to the town staff. The result of which is that it showed the actual traffic is less than what the IT manual assumptions would indicate. That's the reason why that's the case is obviously many residents drive, but as they age and move through the levels of care, they eventually are not driving. We've tried to narrowly tailor this. It is just for this location very specifically. Please let us know if you have any questions when this comes up on the agenda. Thank you very much.
That's all I have, sir.
Is there anyone who wants to speak who did not get to sign up? All right, if not, we will conclude public comment. Item 7 would have been consent agenda items. There are no consent agenda items. This moves us to Section 8, planning and new business. Ms. Reed, if you will set these up for us, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This first item before you is first reading for what we just had our public hearing on. It's for the amendment to the development agreement for Liberty Hill Farms. Just a little bit of background. This actually has received a previous extension and it's set to expire in October. And they've originally asked for a 5-year extension. They would like to see amended at final reading is actually a 3-year extension instead. And you can see where I've marked out, and they have amended their development schedule from a 5-year to a 3-year plan. As was mentioned before, Planning Committee, when this went before committee last month, staff was directed to explore possible infrastructure improvements. One of the things that we came up with and met with them on was a gap in Mount Pleasant Way network from the roundabout at Cultivation Way to the new Von Ed Key Parkway and the future Rifle Range Park. You can see it here on the map, and as was talked about both at committee and at the public comment period, was that they have offered up a contribution to that section of Mount Pleasant Way. So what's before you tonight is originally it was a 5-year extension, a new development schedule, and then a contribution to this. At final reading, we would need to amend that if approved to a 3-year. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Do we have a motion?
Question, Ms. Reed.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Reed, what is the total cost for the bikeway path that they've offered to give us $25,000?
Great question. I want to say when we met, it was about $500,000 to $700,000 for just this section, I think. There's a couple of different pots of money that it was going to be coming from, but when we met with them, I think Mr. Aton said it was around, I want to say $500,000 for this section. I think it's 2,000 linear feet of trail.
So 25,000 is a small percentage of that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do we have the option of adding items from the community to help get this passed?
Let's refer to legal.
Yes, sir. This is an amendment to a development agreement. Thus, it is contractual in nature. It can be conditioned. Those conditions, in my opinion, should be related directly to the project at hand. And of course, from a procedural standpoint, that would be done at final reading.
Move to defer.
Second.
We have a motion to defer, and we have a second. Discussion is limited to talking about the motion. You have the floor as one who seconded.
So I thank Councilman Rambo for moving to defer. I was about to do the same. And the reason for that is I think that there needs to be further discussion between the town and the developer. I think that a deeper understanding of, knowing the number of homes that will be built and sort of the changes in the market, it seems like $25,000 to me is an insufficient amount, and to justify an extension of 3 years at this point. That's my reasoning for a deferral, but I don't know how other council members feel.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I just had one question. I noticed that it didn't say what the planning committee, what their final word was on this. Can you tell us? Did they take a vote on it or not? I don't think
Yes,
I've ever
sir.
seen where. I don't think I've ever seen it where there's,
Right, yeah.
yeah, where there's not been a vote of the committee.
Yeah, it was, this, I think it was recommended approval 3-1 for this one.
Okay. It's just not on our
Yeah, it was on the, I don't know. I think she's referring to this. I think 2-2 is one coming up later.
That's one coming up. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
3-1 is the one after that. So this one.
Who's on first?
I don't remember voting on this, honestly.
It was
All right.
on my notes. I'm not sure how.
Well, the chair of the planning committee seconded the motion to defer, so that
Yeah.
says something. Any other discussion on the motion to defer? Yes, that's the motion on the floor. All right, all in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so it is deferred. And just to be clear, since there are people representing, that would defer it. It would go to committee and then would be on our agenda for first reading automatically next month, or only if it comes with the recommendation.
It will be back on the agenda unless committee intends to
Right.
discuss further.
For first reading.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So the motion passes. All right. No, 2 is a separate one. That was Liberty Hill. This is Central Mount Pleasant. Item 2, please.
Yes, thank you. This next one is a proposal to amend the Central Mount Pleasant Plan Development. It is specific to the neighborhood tract, which I will show you in a minute. And the proposal is to allow 109 continuing care retirement units to be exempted from the multifamily moratorium and our building permit allocation system.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second, so we are in discussion.
Mayor,
Yes.
I was the one no, and my reason for the no was just I'm not comfortable with the exemption to the moratorium. We have a moratorium for a reason. And then I had also read commission approved it, but they had a lot of concerns about the street and the alley and parking. So that just, I wanted to get more information. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about it.
Could we introduce? Chair would entertain a motion to defer.
There's a motion on the
I know.
floor, right?
Right. To approve.
To approve, yes.
I mean, I think for this particular case, it is a very narrow amendment that applies to this CCRC plan development district. This was already approved. The number of units that they had was previously approved. The only reason that they're not allowed to continue building is because of the moratorium. The moratorium is set to expire when is it expiring? In March?
So the building permit allocation is set to expire in January, and the moratorium is set to expire in March. And while zoning views these types of development as commercial, when they are permitted through our building and inspections division, they are permitted as multifamily. So they're subject to both of those growth management plans.
But this is clearly a commercial development that I think, and I think that permitting them to move forward, especially with the clear need for this in the community, and I've had an opportunity to tour the facility. It seems it's a very vibrant, thriving community of folks, and the particular care that is provided under this specific CCRC enables residents to basically be there through all the stages of aging, all the way up to memory care. And I think that, you know, especially as citizens of Mount Pleasant have family members who are aging, having an opportunity for there to be a few more locations for them to go would not be a bad thing for our community.
Mayor.
Yes.
And so the worst thing that would happen would be they would have to wait until January or March if we don't make an exemption to the moratorium, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
would rather not make that exemption than go ahead and follow through with what we thought was best and just, you know, see what happens in January.
Well, the only downside to that is that the permit allocation system could be renewed, as could the moratorium.
And if I may, I was on council when we first did the multifamily moratorium, and Councilman, you were there, and we have renewed it. I think it's been 6 times, 5 or 6 times. We never intended for it to stop this type of building. It was the many types of market, apartments and things like that. It's unfortunate that these CCRCs are classified as multifamily, but that was not the intent of, I don't think anybody when we first thought of this and passed it. Otherwise, I'm with you. I would not want anybody to be exempt from it. But this is an unfortunate thing because to provide this type of care, which our citizens need, I think, they need this. Any others?
Yeah, Mayor.
Yes.
I was the primary one who wanted to add senior living.
Right.
And back then, we were getting a lot of requests for additional senior living. This is something that this particular application is not like what we saw before.
Right.
They're reducing the number of units, number one. They've already done a traffic plan, which resolves any problems that would come up. And I think we need to move forward with this particular item, maybe not all senior living, but this particular item, because again, it had already been approved as a PD, part of the PD.
And remind everybody, this is first reading. We'll get another shot at this in a month. Yes, sir, Mr. Rambo.
I guess the one part I'm still confused on is I've always thought that planned developments were exempt from moratoriums and permanent allocation. Like
No.
Carolina Park.
Because they also have a development agreement. So if this development agreement for Central Mount Pleasant had been extended, they would be protected, but the development agreement expired. The planned development itself does not exempt them from. Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
What was the concern on? We did have a citizen come in, and I guess that could be brought up maybe next time. But the concern on the road, did you all discuss that or?
We heard some concerns about. I think it was folks trying to back out and get out of the what has always been planned, and what's part of this plan is to finish that connection out to Founders Way. But we did hear some concerns at the commission meeting and the committee meeting about the folks that live in these garden flats when they try to exit their homes. But that is part of the plan, and it's been part of the plan all along to provide that connection through there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Peglerine, again, we are not approving a site plan, right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. We're only approving for them to proceed to plan and build. So the site plan could be improved based on input. I see them affirming that, right?
Correct, sir.
Okay. And it's first reading. All right. All in favor of the motion to approve first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
7-2. All right. Motion
First reading ordinance number 23027.
Motion is approved. Okay, this brings us to item number 3.
So this is also an amendment to the Central Mount Pleasant PD. A little more simple. It's the mixed use tract there outlined in red. And this is just to add when the PD was written, they left out a gym or athletic facility as one of their permitted uses. So this PD amendment is for that tract there, outlined in blue, to allow an athletic facility. And then because they didn't include that use in their planned development, they needed to establish parking requirements. And so they've used the town standards for that same use. So this amendment is to allow a club or a gym on the neighborhood tract, that parcel, and then to establish parking, 1 per 300 square feet of parking for that use.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion to approve in a second, and please note this was recommended 4-0 from the planning committee.
Yes.
For approval. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
First reading ordinance number 23028.
Okay.
All right. Item number 4.
All right. This is a request to rezone to
Move
community
to approve.
conservation.
Second.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. It was also a 4-0 from the committee. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
First reading, ordinance number 23029.
All right, and this is a request to annex and zone community conservation and to amend the town's comprehensive plan future land use map for the same parcel. It's a 1.25 acre parcel. It's a peninsula shape that backs up into Park West, as you can see here. It is in Charleston County. And the reason that they can't annex in and get automatic zoning is because the comprehensive plan designates them for conservation open space. So if they came in automatically, they would not be settlement, they would not be CC, they would be conservation open space. And just a little bit of background, the reason it is conservation open space is not because it's wetlands. There is no, it is not wet. There is a canal that runs south just adjacent to this property. So presumably it was designated this during the comp plan process. But we have verified that it is not a wetland. So what they would like to do is amend the comp plan, because if they don't amend the comp plan and it comes in and it's still CC, there's no density established. You have to change the comp plan to establish density. There is one structure on the property. The owner would like to do what's typically allowed in a community conservation district, which is called a rural compound. And these are allowed in the settlement communities where you can do more than one structure, principal structure, as long as you meet your density requirements and you don't have to subdivide. And so what they would like to do, presumably, is a rural compound, which would allow up to 3 units on this property. So it's a comp plan amendment to allow the density and to allow a single family structure, and it's annexation and then zoning to community conservation, which is consistent with the surrounding area, and it's consistent with the development patterns in that area.
Question. I don't know if this was asked at the planning committee. What could they do with it if it stays in the county? Can they put those, can you go back to where the 3 lots were? That, what could they do? Because, I mean, you're going to have something right behind one of our residents here.
Yeah, so in the county, their zoning currently is similar to our CC zoning. The issue is the owner has expressed a desire to, he needs to put 3 manufactured homes on the property to care for aging family members, and he needs water and sewer, and he could not accomplish the 3 manufactured homes in the county if he's on septic. And so that's a concern. So it's not the density, it's not the use, but it is being able to get those units on a septic system.
And if we deny the annexation, then they still get water and sewer.
Yeah.
Correct.
I wanted to see if I could make a motion to approve annexation. Can we move to do this separately?
Yes, ma'am. You take item number 5 first.
Okay.
Second.
Was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay,
Move
and
to
this is on
approve the
item 5
annexation.
to approve the annexation. All right, and we have a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries.
First reading, ordinance number 23030.
That moves us to item number 6, which is this is the amendment for this, right?
It's to establish the zoning and to amend the comprehensive plan.
Move to approve.
A second.
We have a motion to approve in a second, so we're in discussion, Mr. Rambo.
Oh, so remind me, the current zoning on this in the town is open.
So the current zoning is in the county, and it's zoned S3, which is Special 3 Management, which is similar to our CC.
Okay, but didn't we change the ordinance to where if it's zoned in that, if it's like that, then it automatically comes in as community conservation or R1?
No, because the comp plan designates it. So you have 3 designations when you come in through automatic zoning. If you're a conservation designation, you come in automatically as conservation open space. If you are anything other than settlement community, you come in as R1. And if you're a settlement community, you come in as CC.
Okay,
He
so
wants to come in as CC, but he can't.
So my question is this: under conservation open space zoning, does that even allow the house that currently isn't there a structure currently on the property? Does that
Well,
technically
it's our
even
comp
allow that?
plan designation on a county property. You see, it's still in the county, and he's allowed to have the structure in the county. Our comp plan has him designated as conservation open space.
Okay, here's my question. I guess misunderstanding it. So,
Okay.
if we've annexed them first reading. So if we
Mhm.
annex them second reading and don't change zoning, is the
He-
structure on their property, the house on their property, technically non-conforming now with our zoning once they're in the town?
Because the house is there, it would be legally established, but if
But
it were
it's
to
still
go away, he
non-conforming.
couldn't. Correct.
So he could make no improvements or
Or if it got
He couldn't
very
do
little
anything.
improvements.
Correct.
if it like got burned down, he wouldn't be able to rebuild it, right?
Right. He wouldn't be able to do anything with it unless we amend unless the comp plan is amended as well. That's correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Is he not protected by our non-conforming ordinance that we came up with?
He might be, but if there was damage or things like that, there are different sections of that nonconformities, 50% and all those things. But if he were to move that existing structure, and I don't even know if he's here this evening, and I don't think he is. I don't even know if it's a livable structure. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's not in the best shape. So I think if he were to remove that, he wouldn't be able to replace it.
Question I have: if the comp plan designates this as conservation,
Mhm.
and people from Park West came to our charrette and saw that and said, "Yeah, there'll be that one house, but if you go back to the other, we're not going to have two manufactured homes in our backyards." Then that's what they supported in the comp plan. And if we amend this, they're going to wake up one day and see two mobile homes being put on the land behind two cul-de-sacs in the town of Mount Pleasant. Am I correct?
That's possible.
Because that's why they want this zoning, so they can have 3 residences on this 1.25 acres.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that would go over well with our citizens.
I can tell you we posted signs, and we didn't have anybody from Park West come to the public hearing. What we did have is a few folks from the Phillips community come, and their concern was about the integrity of the historic overlay. But you're correct.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Ackerman.
Well, it sounds like a little bit. I mean, right. You're taking this, if we annex them in and then their current home is non-conforming, then when something happens to it, then we've taken their home away from them as well. So it's, although these are two different votes, they both have very serious consequences. So
Could always, at second reading, vote down the annexation.
And if we vote down the annexation, then he gets access to water and sewer, and we end up where we end up in the same place that we are with approval.
Well, he stays in the county, and the county has to approve it, and the Historic Preservation Commission has to approve it because it would remain in the overlay.
So if we don't annex it,
Mhm.
it remains in the historic overlay district, which is what apparently the Phillips community would like.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
One more question. From a services perspective, do we already run trash? I mean, are there any annexed properties on that road where we're already running a trash
Yeah,
service?
right there in the pink.
So yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion is to approve this zoning, and it's 2 things. Is that correct, Mr. Peckley? Zoning and amending the comp plan?
Sir, one motion, 2 items would be accomplished by that.
Okay, and
yes.
we already have the motion
Yes, sir.
to approve. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we may need a roll call. Okay, the clerk is asking me for a roll call. All right. All right, the motion is to approve, and that would be the zoning and the comp plan amendment.
Mr. Rambo,
You can pass. Abstain, or do you want to pass?
Fine.
You can pass and it'll come back to you.
I wish we could defer it, but
That's not the motion. Actually, we're not in discussion, but you can pass and then come back. Okay. Thanks. All right.
Mr. Ritchie. No. Mr. Ritchie votes no. Mr. Santos.
No.
Mr. Santos votes no. Miss Whitley.
Yes.
Miss Whitley votes yes. Mr. Chapman.
No.
Mr. Chapman votes no. Miss Corley.
No.
Miss Corley votes no. Miss Hyatt.
No.
Miss Hyatt votes no. Mr. Icafano.
Yes.
Mr. Icafano votes yes. Mr. Rambo.
yes.
Mr. Rambo votes yes. Mayor Heaney.
No.
Mayor Heaney votes no.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope. 6, 3.
6-3.
6, 3. The motion is defeated. Okay. This concludes that section. This moves us to section B. Old business, final reading of an annexation. Ms. Reed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Final reading, ordinance number 23024.
All right, this moves us to section 9, committee action items. This comes from the Finance Committee. Mr. Rambo, are you going to take this?
Yes, sir.
All
This recommendation is to accept the fiscal year 2023 Port Security Grant Award. The town of Mount Pleasant was awarded a federal grant to purchase hazmat meters and equipment to be utilized by the fire department at the state port from the Department of Homeland Security. As such, I move that council accept this grant award.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 10, council business, new business. Action to establish a millage rate and the sales tax credit factor. And since it involves big numbers, we bring out the big guns. So thank you, Ms. Kotoff.
Yes, sir. So the action is to establish the millage rate and the local option sales tax. So the millage rate is 34.7, which is the same as it currently is for operating. For debt millage, we're at 8.6, which is an increase of 4 mills based on the referendum. These numbers with the assessed and appraised values that the county provided do support our budget, and they are in line with it. Overall, we have a 6.4% increase over the prior year. The other item we have is the local option sales tax credit. We are requesting to increase it from 0.00045 to 0.0005. What that does is that is based on the amount of sales tax that we are required to reduce tax bills by. So based on what we have in our current year budget and based on what we have in our liability account from prior years that we have not been able to reduce, we're requesting to reduce this. Now, what this means to a house that's $500,000 appraised value. That $500,000 appraised value house with the new millage would go up to $866, or it would be an increase of $80. The increase of that local option sales tax credit will increase the reduction to those bills by $25. So the net increase to a $500,000 appraised home is $55 from last year. So the request is to set the millage rate at a total of 43.3 with a local option sales tax of 0.0005.
Move to accept the recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion to accept the recommendation, and we have a second. That puts us in discussion.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If we were to not change the sales tax credit factor, what benefit would that have for the town?
So we receive sales tax in two portions, a portion that the municipality keeps, that's about $6 million, and then in a portion that we are required to reduce our tax bills by. So what happens is we actually with COVID, we pretty much were in balance. Then the state increased the amount of sales tax we get. So a portion of the sales tax that's a rollback is based on our population. When the 2020 census went into effect, we built up a liability. In fact, it is close to $4 million. So what we need to do is increase the amount that we are reducing tax bills by to give that back. We try to balance out how much we have, but we ended up with a conservative estimate on rollback plus the sales tax changed by the state and ended up with additional money. So while we're reducing them each year, we haven't reduced them enough to reduce that liability.
I see. So this is not a step that's going to harm the town and lower, you know what I mean? Because we are adding the debt millage for the referendum to cover that. I just wanted to be sure that this sales tax credit factor, because we've also just increased salaries. There's just things we've taken on. I just want to make sure that we're not harming our bottom line by doing this.
We are not. In fact, we are required to do it.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
There you go. We are in discussion. Ms. Corley.
I wish I could just, I just wish this could be like an easy yes, but there's quite a large portion of the town who I hear from all the time, and I'm sure you guys do too, who feel like, and I know I'm preaching, I've already said this 1,000 times, but that referendum campaign, that, if that sign had said something more like, vote yes for an athletic facility with maybe a picture of a tree, but maybe a dead tree lying down, and maybe a pond with an X through it, and 2 deer with X's through it, and some dead birds, I don't know, and with dollar signs next to it, maybe I would have said, you know what, this gives us a good idea of what these residents want, right? So this is what we want as a town. I would have gotten behind it, and yes, let's do it. Let's spend $50 million and go and feel good about it. But I don't feel good about it at all. We're killing a park to build a recreation facility. How much money are we? Who are we as a council, right? What do we want this town to look like? And I know that, I guess, people who think like me and my vision is not what the rest of of you all's vision is, but it's just, I really wish I could be a yes for this, and I don't want to be a no. You guys know I'm a lover, not a fighter, but this just makes me nauseous, honestly. And I'm going to be a no on this. Just wanted to make sure you guys knew how I felt. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Mr. Akafano?
Well, I guess we've already borrowed the money. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are we earning interest on the money?
Yes, sir.
Are we earning more interest than we're paying in debt interest on the money right now?
We did just have our June 30th arbitrage for the money. We have earned more interest, so we do have to put it aside. So we've earned about $900,000 interest. $500,000 has been set aside because we have not earned it, and we may have to give it back because of interest rates.
Because we're earning so much interest on
Correct.
it.
Yes, sir.
We borrowed it at a time with lower interest rates, and interest rates have excelled dramatically. So we're getting this money very inexpensively. The voters have spoken. I can't believe we just keep bringing this up. The voters have spoken. Council has spoken. We borrowed the money. We hatched the plan, and I think it's time to move forward. I don't know that the vote for parks was not an arm of the government, but we keep bringing it up at this council meeting like it was an arm of the government. It wasn't an arm of the government. So whatever actions were taken by putting a tree on a sign or whatever that was, every voter had the chance to look into what they voted on before they got to the ballot box. You've got to do your research before getting to the ballot box, and we're listening to the majority of the citizens of Mount Pleasant, and that's what we're doing. I don't know if the majority of the citizens of Mount Pleasant voted no. I don't know if we would be bringing something up right now to keep bringing this up. It would have been a no. A no would have been no, and a yes is a yes. So I'm in favor of this.
No, I won't talk anymore after this. But
yes, ma'am.
And John, I'm not arguing, and I just wanted you guys to just hear me for 30 seconds as to why I'm a no. But in no shape or form am I expecting. I know I'm on the losing side of this. I just wanted to be heard. I'm not expecting a big, long, drawn out fight or argument about this.
Others, we're still in discussion. All right, the chair would like to speak, and I ask y'all to bear with me for a minute. You all know that I oppose putting this on the ballot, and I oppose the referendum. But I want to say that the reason we're voting on this tonight, we're adding a over 10% across the board tax increase, which may be the largest incremental increase in the history of the town. I don't know, but it is the largest in my public service for the town. And the reason for that is it requires a vote by this council. The referendum did not automatically raise taxes as proponents put out in a well-funded campaign. The referendum was advisory, and we heard that tonight in executive session. So it requires a vote of council. This is very different from a sales tax referendum, because in sales tax referendums, you get help from non-residents to help pay for things that your residents need. We are taxing our own residents, and we're taxing their homes, their businesses, their cars, their boats, and anything that is property. It's across the board, and we don't get any help from non-residents on a property tax referendum. There will be a reassessment in 2025, and in all likelihood, assessments will rise to the limit allowed by law by then. So it will be higher than the number that has been put out there, which is today's number. So the more I saw on this, and the more we looked at this, the more we looked at financial conditions, the more we compared property tax millages regionally, and then we added a $3.5 million item at the very last minute. Just the pitfalls of things like this, I could not support it. And I never will support a property tax referendum, because we pit neighbors against neighbors about taxing their own residents. We knew before the election that this would deeply divide our town, and the results prove that. If you dig into the data, the 700 vote margin came down to 2 precincts. 2 precincts were the bulk of that, not all of it, but the bulk of it out of 39 precincts. We've managed to keep our taxes among the lowest in the region. And I've heard in the public, and all I've heard that disparaged, that our taxes are low and that we could build more things and have more shiny stuff if we raised our taxes. But I beg to differ, because our relationship with our citizens is not transactional. We're spending $50 million on the referendum, round numbers, 10 million interest, because or in some manner, we're collecting the amount we're collecting over 15 years accounts for 10 million. We're spending $5 million on Waterfront Park, $4 million on Phase 4 of Carolina Park, all from different funding sources, for a total of $7 million. And then we've got to figure out in the next 2 years how to do what was authorized, the Senior Youth Civic Center on land that we own on Faison Road. We're told by staff that the operational cost for what was approved by the referendum could be $500,000 a year in operations. So it's time for us to ask ourselves what the priorities of this town are going forward. If we lose the lawsuit on the one that's on the agenda, we'll be dealing with impacts for which we have no revenues, no impact fees, no taxes, no anything, but we will have the negative impacts of that. And that's just one scenario. The others include flood resiliency, first responder pay, transportation improvements, and that could be tens of millions, if not more, in the not too distant future. This referendum passed by an extremely narrow margin out of 41,000 votes. And there's a disturbing trend in America of trying to overturn election results that people don't agree with. I will not be part of that trend. I will vote in accordance with the outcome of this referendum, because it is my duty to do so. But going forward, I plead with this council, we must heed the words of Shakespeare, go wisely and slowly, for those who rush stumble and fall. Is there any other comment? Yes, sir.
I just want to say I appreciate both of y'all's passion on this issue. As the finance chair, I did just want to make one just kind of clarifying comment on the 2025 reassessment. Just a reminder that the reassessment, once that's issued, the millage by law is automatically rolled back and to be revenue neutral. And this council would have to take a separate vote to raise that millage back up. So I just wanted to clarify that the 2025 reassessment does not automatically increase this amount.
Yeah, Mr. Chapman.
I hadn't spoken yet on this issue, but I was in favor of the referendum. And I was in favor of it because we had family after family after family coming in here complaining that we did not provide adequate park space, recreation space for their children. They were having to go to North Charleston. They were having to go to Daniel Island. They were having to go downtown. What we chose to do by a vote of 7-2 was to let our citizens make that decision to build more parks for the children, to build more recreation facilities for the children. And when we had children actually coming in here and complaining to us that they didn't have a place to play, that got to me. I had the luxury of raising 4 children when the town had plenty of parks and recreation space. We don't have that anymore. That's why the referendum passed. And to spend an additional, what was the number you gave, Ms. Kotoff?
For which one, sir?
For the addition of for a $500,000 home?
Yes, sir. So the net between the millage rate and the lost is $55.
Is $55 for a $500,000 house. I think it's well worth the money, extra money spent to start providing sufficient parks and recreation space for our children in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Santos.
Yeah, and thank you, Howard. I don't think I could have said it better. I just wanted to say also, I know you mentioned Waterfront Park, but Waterfront Park was actually donated to us. We didn't have to pay for that. I know we're putting money into it now, but I asked them when they were building the bridge to donate that to us, and they did. So that was well said, Howard, and I agree with you. Thank you.
Ms. Hart?
I'll just agree with what the mayor said as far as I agree to allow the referendum for the public to make that decision, and the outcome of the vote leads me to have to vote for this. Thank you.
Anyone want to speak who has not spoken? Did you want to be recognized again?
One more. Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. So just to be clear, the 10% increase across taxes is 10% of Mount Pleasant taxes, not 10% of your entire property taxes, 10% of Mount Pleasant taxes. It's not a 10% on your boat. It's not 10% on your car. It's not 10% on the motor of your boat, the boat motor. Okay, it's not 10%. It's like I'm just speaking off. I can't remember. I think it's $6 on a $20,000 motor or something like that, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. I wish you knew. So it's not 10% on the entire tax bill. It's 10% on the Mount Pleasant tax bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
This does sunset. Is that correct?
At the time that this, the end of this time, we will have to reduce our millage because we won't have enough debt to continue.
It will not automatically renew. The only way for a tax increase to stay is for council to take a separate action, totally separate action, and vote a millage increase to match that amount as this one sunsets. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if we were to collect more in property taxes, just like a mortgage, it would pay down earlier. Is that correct?
For a general obligation bond, we can't do that before 10 years.
10
At
years,
10
so.
years, yes, sir, then we can go ahead and pay it off or refund it.
But if we're collecting more in taxes because taxes are assessed and you start collecting more in property taxes, it would just pay off earlier after 10 years. That's correct?
After 10 years, we can make that decision. Up until that time, we are hedging on the increase to help support the operation so that there would not be an additional increase. So for next year, the amount of general fund millage that is supporting our borrowing, we can reduce and therefore use it for operations.
Okay, thank you. And then there was, and just to be very clear as well, we put this on the largest ballot that was available. I know, Mr. Mayor, you had wanted to put it on the 2023 ballot where there was less people voting, but we put it on this past ballot where the most people got to make that majority vote for this. So I will rest. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, the motion is to accept the recommendation for the millage rate and the sales tax credit factor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, the motion passes 8-1. Item number 2 is adoption of a resolution authorizing a loan application by Mount Pleasant Waterworks.
This was presented at Water Supply and Finance. Finance unanimously voted to recommend it. So I will move to approve to full council.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. I see that Mr. Clum is here to answer any questions. Am I correct that this only authorizes for the application? Mr. Clum, you will come back once you get the loan, if you get it?
Correct.
Okay. Just in case there were any questions about, how much, what interest rate, all that kind of stuff. This is just to
And there
apply
are some
for.
big, much needed projects.
Right.
This money.
All right, any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 23091.
That concludes council new business. This brings us to old business. Item 1 is an ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 73 titled Bicycles of the Mount Pleasant Code of Ordinances. I guess I will hand it off to you, Mr. Paglarine.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This has been several months in the making. It's been addressed by Council and the PJL Committee on several occasions. First reading was passed and the matter was brought back to PJL for further considerations and amendments, which we'll show you tonight, which we believe capture at least all of the discussion that's been had both at the committee and council level. So just briefly, the overview. The movement is to repeal and replace Chapter 73, which was antiquated, some 60 years old, and contained several provisions that were no longer applicable, including license and registration requirements, updating the bicycle operation regulations to reflect current state law, and add provisions for the operation of e-bikes and mopeds, which are defined by state law. And so these are the proposed replacement provisions. As you can see, there are, and as you've read the prior ordinance that was passed at first reading, there are definitions for bicycle, e-bikes, and mopeds. These are state law definitions. These came from our state legislature, and we may not supersede those definitions. So in summary, provisions for the operation of bicycles includes the permitting of riding bicycles on sidewalks in certain circumstances. However, bicycles must yield to pedestrians on the sidewalk. We will go over those certain circumstances in just a moment. And a speed limit of 10 miles per hour on sidewalks and multi-use paths, but not dedicated bike lanes or the street. For e-bikes, an overall speed limit of 15 miles per hour. Operators of e-bikes under the age of 21 must wear a helmet. And the permitting the riding of e-bikes on sidewalks in certain circumstances, again, which we will go over. However, operators of e-bikes must yield to pedestrians on the sidewalk. And again, a speed limit of 10 miles per hour on sidewalks and multi-use paths, but not dedicated lanes or the street. Any e-bike that produces speeds in excess of 20 miles per hour will be deemed a moped, And of course, the third category is mopeds, are mopeds, the licensing and registration thereof, as well as an overall speed limit of 25 miles per hour. And mopeds may not be operated on the sidewalks or public pathways. First reading, that was the overall ordinance at first reading. And you will see that in its entirety. And the proposed amendments, which I'll go through briefly, Mayor.
Please.
And those really include the provisions to riding of the bicycles on sidewalks. You'll see that there are certain exceptions here. And the provisions are, just as we just have spoken before, the age of 17 is the key age exception. However, there are certain other exceptions that should be considered, and those are, as you see before you, and they indicate, again, the overall speed limit on shared paths and sidewalks of 10 miles per hour. So again, those do not, that provision, or at least the, as related to these proposed amendments, there is no restriction to the bicycle speed on roads and on bike paths. The other further allowances are when the road is posted a speed limit of 30 miles per hour or more, bicycles may also be ridden on the sidewalks. And then, of course, somewhat similar that we just discussed for e-bikes on sidewalks, the age restriction or age exception, and as well as the situations where it is unsafe to ride on streets. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. The appropriate way to move forward would be a motion for approval, followed by a second, and then followed by a motion to amend in accordance with the proposed amendments as provided by the Police Legal Judicial Committee.
Councilman Ritchie, would you like to?
Sure. I'd like to move that we approve the ordinance as stated by Mr. Pagliarini.
We have a
Second.
motion. This is overall for second reading. We have a motion. Is there any discussion?
And then I'd like to move to amend the ordinance in accord with as presented by legal.
All right. We have a second.
Second.
And we have a second. So discussion is on that motion. One point to clarify, if you will just say this does not outlaw e-bikes in total on either in the town or on sidewalks.
That is
Correct?
correct, sir.
They are permitted, but there are conditions.
Yes, sir.
And and one of the big things we did was we changed, if the speed limit is 30 miles per hour or more, any person may ride a bicycle on the adjacent sidewalk except as otherwise prohibited. So,
That's right, sir.
so I just want to clear that up. I've gotten emails about the amount of deaths that we'll have on our hands and these type of things. But if it's 30 miles per hour or up, you can ride on the sidewalk.
Sir, and that is why, at least one of the reasons why the speed limit on sidewalks is
Is
limited to 10 miles,
10 miles per hour.
Right. And deferral to pedestrians in those situations.
Right. Yes, sir.
Just
Mr.
want to say
Rambo.
thank you to the committee for all of their work on this. I know it was
Right.
several months of work, and I made a lot of comments, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
if
sir.
I could just ask for clarification, and I know the answer. There were some complaints that individuals who might be a little more elderly had handicaps of some degree. How are they allowed to do more on sidewalks based on state law?
Well, sir, state law merely provides the definitions of what is a bicycle, what is a moped, and what is an e-bike. What has been presented, discussed, debated, and the proposed amendments allow bicycles and e-bikes on sidewalks and shared paths in most circumstances in the town, in almost every circumstances, unless there's a dedicated bike path, or of course, the road is under 30 miles per hour, all of those factors. So we don't see really any circumstances where that categorization would be prevented from riding on sidewalks as long as they do so within the prescribed rules, and that is less than 10 miles per hour and deferral to pedestrians.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we are voting on this slate of amendments. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we're in discussion on passage of the second reading of this ordinance as amended, as we just amended. Yes, sir.
Sure, thank you, and I appreciate everybody's work on this. And I know this came about because of a tragedy. Let's just be honest. We had a pet that was killed as a result of a reckless use of an e-bike, and that can still happen. We understand that, but we listened to our citizens. We heard the comments. I'm the one that brought the age up from 12 to 17, so I understood that there were young people who still ride their bikes to maybe high school who were well above age 12, and since our state law recognized 17 and younger as still youth, that made sense to increase that. So I hope our citizens know we did listen, read the emails, and we understand that. I think most of us saw or heard some comments, maybe we weren't biker friendly. I think it's just the opposite. We are so bicycle friendly in this town. And you look at the new developments, they're adding bike trails, we're adding bike paths. We're making it, we're encouraging that to get some of the cars off the road, obviously. And y'all know where I come from, a public safety point of view. This is about public safety. This is about making sure we can prevent some of these tragedies. Again, you won't prevent them all. It's like our speed limits. We don't prevent all accidents or deaths, but if we can prevent 1, 2 of them, we've accomplished what we wanted to. Heard the gentleman talk about fatalities. This is going to help, I think, reduce that too. I mean, we've worked on it to even have our bicyclists, by reducing the speed limit, come up on the sidewalk versus being on a rifle range road or some of these areas at 35 plus miles an hour. So we're given the opportunity to not be in traffic. And I will applaud Mount Pleasant and our council for taking this on. I don't know if anybody saw the news the other night. I took a screenshot of it. This has become a national issue. And we are proactive here dealing with this, and we're one of the first to take it on. And we knew it was going to be popular with everybody. Again, it's down to public safety, and I appreciate everybody's comments or efforts, and hopefully we'll get this passed.
Any other? All in favor of the motion to approve the ordinance as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Final reading, ordinance number 23023.
This brings us to our final agenda item this evening. Number 2 on the next page, an ordinance authorizing, directing the town of Mount Pleasant to enter into an intergovernmental agreement relating to South Carolina local revenue services.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. We are in discussion. Would you like to tell us briefly what this is, please? Or Ms. Kotov? All right.
Currently, the Municipal Association collects these 3 business licenses for the town. What they're doing is they are starting a new arm of the Municipal Association, the Local Revenue Services, and they will be doing the collection under that, and it really outlines the pieces. Part of this is because the State Standardization Act does make sure that everyone has a specific appeals process, which they didn't have when they were collecting these. So they have set up, and they are going to be collecting these for us. At this point, we still recommend that this is the best way for the town to continue to handle the collection of these.
All right. We have a motion to approve. This came through, I guess, your committee as well. Correct. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Final reading, ordinance number 23025.
Item number 11 is to adjourn. If there's nothing before this body, we stand adjourned.